Want to be. I learned this from those men who fight, upward toiling through the night.
I am tired, you are tired, the nation is tired of gunshots. We need words to replace gunshots.
This piece is called I Wonder. Sometimes I stop and wonder what it is to wonder. Look at my condition, I just smile and have to ponder. I'm poor, I have no wealth, I should have been rich. I stopped and I wondered if I had money, I might switch. Sometimes I stop and wonder what it is to wonder. Look at where I live, the echo, it's the gutter. And then I stopped and I wondered, suppose I had a house and land. The poor and needy people, their plight I won't understand. Sometimes I stop and wonder what it is to wonder. To drive a nice car, a Bima or a Hummer. And then I stopped and I wondered, if I did, what would I do? I will drive all day in a condition and pass you and you and you. Sometimes I stop and wonder what it is to wonder. Is this my fate or a test or a blessing from the Creator in saving me from my nafs, my whims and my fancy, to love and care for the weak and less fortunate all around me? I wonder, I wonder, I wonder. Sometimes I stop and wonder.
My name is Mtima Solwazi, and Cascadoo became an idea back in 2008. It didn't have the name Cascadoo, but I knew I wanted to do something after my experience at Brave New Voices at Washington, D.C. You know, I saw 700 young people in the United States of America in the same space, different races, different ethnicities, right? And in the same space, involved in workshops, doing spoken word, and enjoying themselves. And I sat there at one time, because we took up a group of teenagers, 4, 2 males and 2 females. And I sat there one evening feeling guilty, feeling jealous, saying, I wasted my youth. This is what youth is supposed to be. Sharing experiences, enjoying one another's company. So I told the organizer, Jason Cass, I said, I want a Brave New Voices in Trinidad and Tobago. We could do a Caribbean New Voices. I said, no problem, we could work on it. But nothing really materialized. And I've been in contact with a guy called Nth Degree, Anthony Bansfield out of Canada, since around 2005. And he called me one day, he said, Mtima, I'm coming to Trinidad in 2012. Let's plan something big. And one time, Brave New Voices came to my mind. And when we met in 2012, I told Anthony of this idea of Brave New Voices, which he knows of. He said we could do a festival, similar. And we started a plan. And he came up with the name Cascadoo. I didn't like it, right? And he said it's a nice thing because it's catchy, Cascadoo, And I said, you know what? Anthony has the experience. Let's go with Cascadoo. But I still put on Caribbean New Voices because I wanted that Brave New Voices element. So we came up with the name Cascadoo, Caribbean New Voices International Festival of Spoken Word. I have been following Muslim Belal for years. I was impressed that this youth, former gangster, former rapper, became Muslim, but maintained that style of rap to spread the message.
I'm surrounded by lights, Lights, camera, actions. I'm the topic of debates, gossip, and their discussions. Somebody tell them I ain't got the time for these distractions. 'Cause when I die, I'm afraid of what might happen. They recognize my face. They asked me for my autograph. I told them that my faith don't justify superstars. So switch off these lights, turn off the cameras, and cut the action. 'Cause when I die, I'm afraid of what might happen. You see, I could see clearly now the rain has gone. I could see clearly now the rain has gone. I could see clearly now the rain has gone. I could see clearly now the rain has gone. I could see clearly now the rain has gone. The page they're on, clearly not the page I'm on. I didn't expect to be staying there for this long, but this age I expected to be already gone. Prediction wrong, thought my addiction had gone. It wasn't in my plans to be making another song, but I am just a man, can't a man do wrong? I guess not. What planet are they really from? Yeah, I'm from the best slot, but I am not the best one. I come from Jamaica, credit to the maker. Pull a little money on the side for the day. I wanna fly away with my wife, Arabia. I can hear the call in the night. Wake me up, what you find easy in your life. Maybe I struggle with these things at times. Struggler, but they can stand by and criticize. None of us will ever authorize that right. No, I am just a poet, I am just a Muslim, I am just his brother, I am just a husband, I am just a son amongst the children of Adam. I am not the one that can make things happen. I am like a gun under a soldier's arm. I only explode when my leader commands, and I can go on. There's no limit where I'm standing. I'm happy where I'm standing. Got permission from my captain, 'cause I am not a rapper. I am not rapping. I am not a singer. I am not singing. I am just the one that likes to rhyme when I'm talking, and I communicate with the mind of the orphans. I don't want a coffin, silk, no satin. Give me a white cloth when I die to be wrapped in. My brother's still rapping. I'm in a different league. There's something gold in the tank. I'm blue in the sea, and now cruising no beat like a Malcolm speech. A slave from the motherland, praying bare feet. And I do this for the street. The one is still struggling, the one is still hustling, the one is still juggling, the one that makes a living out of cocaine and heroin, trying to turn a street brother humble like a Bedouin. We ain't gonna never win if this is how we stand. We're too far apart, can't reach my brother's hand. We're way too critical. We pass too much judgment. The one who's most righteous, Allah says, is the best of them. So if all of my actions were judging my intentions, maybe I'm forgiven for the things I cannot mention. I was the one getting held back in detention then for coming to school with no book and no pad and no pen. Now I walk with my book on me like my gun. La ilaha illallah on my tongue. I could see clearly now the rain has gone. No more bad weather. I could see clearly now the rain has gone. I could see clearly now the rain has gone. I could see clearly now the rain has gone. 'Cause when it rains outside, I put my coat on. My mommy looked in my eyes and told me, hold on. She said there's danger down the road that I walk on. And those who walked in it before, now they're all gone. Locked in the cage or down in the grave. This is the outcome from the choices we made. Alhamdulillah, I feel I've been saved. Alhamdulillah, I feel I've been saved. Alhamdulillah, I feel I've been saved. Alhamdulillah, that's why I'm here today. Saying Jamaica is my background. London is my birthplace. I ask myself, why didn't they teach me about my purpose in this life in the first place? 'Cause I was on the verge of walking around my streets of London with a screw face. Now I say it's a good thing I was never too cool to read the first page. 'Cause I was on the outside looking in, ghetto child lingering, thinking should I take it now, thoughts were just wavering, will it make my daddy proud, what am I gonna say to him, can I go back to my house, mommy I'm a Muslim, how's she gonna take it down, how they gonna take it in, will I end up kicked out, will I get a kick in, I don't know what to do, I gotta plan my next move, I wanna take Shahada soon, really gotta think it through, what's right for me I have to do, live for me and not for you, I don't believe that is true, the things I read up in the news, it's my choice, I'ma choose, I ain't got nothing to lose, this is the religion of truth, read the books, found the proof. Ismail came to me, sat me down and said to me, what's your purpose in life? It just was like a game to me. I would think occasionally, Ismail is right, I need to fix up my life tonight, could be my last night. So just before the summer year 2002, My mind's already had a wonder, now it's time to make a move. I made my way down to the studio where I link up with my crew, sitting on a single chair, running my fingers through my hair. I said, yo, it's Rafil, is your older brother here? Thankfully he says, yeah, it's my yo, it's downstairs. He'll be up in a minute, he's having a word with his mother. He comes up, I tell him I want to take my shahada. He looks at me and smiles, I stand up, receive a hug. He said, I see you as a friend of mine, I look you like a bruv. Now I can feel the love, no longer feeling lost. He said, take off your cross, let's take a drive to New Cross. That's where I met my Uncle Yasser and his brothers from all over. They said it's time to leave the ghetto life way over your shoulder. So I said, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. There's no true God except Allah, Muhammad is his messenger. I ain't going church no more, I'm going Jummah. Friday, Streatham Mosque, Mumtaz on the khutbah. I wanted to get the front row, I had to get there early. He read the prayer in Arabic, I understood it barely. I really got to learn it quick, I got myself a teacher. Then I went to Egypt so I could learn the language better. I'm be feeling all emotional, let me write my mum a letter. In Egypt feeling lonely, wanted to find myself a lover. I tried to get married, I suffered a bit of racism. He said she couldn't be with me because my parents were Jamaican. I said, hey, but I still pray and I fast in Ramadan. He said, no daughter of mine will be marrying a black man. I said, okay, cool, I'm gonna make a prayer for you. And you know what, brother, let's make a prayer for me too. I'm just happy I'm a Muslim, I came from them streets to Islam, the ghetto. When I see my brother give a palm, embrace with a hug and greet with salam. Salamu alaikum. I'm a Muslim, I came from them streets to Islam, the ghetto. When I see my brother give a palm, embrace with a hug and greet with salam. Salamu alaikum. Salamu alaikum. Salam. I remember coming home late from the parties, intoxicated with champagne. I didn't really have love for anybody. I was a bad boy with a bad name. Now I get paid to tell my story. Alhamdulillah, I came a long way from them streets to Islam. Now salam is what we say. And the day after I took my shahada, subhanallah, that was a Friday. Brothers picked me up, they took me to Jummah. We got there late and they started to pray. He whispered to me, follow my lead. I didn't understand the word that they say. I thought he was confused like me till he opened his mouth and he said, Ameen. Then he raised his hands and he went to his knees and he raised back up and he went to the floor. Then he raised back up, then he went to the floor. This was confusing me for sure, but I didn't give up, now I understand. You're looking at a proud Muslim man and I want to go and live in a Muslim land. Take a Muslim wife by a Muslim and have some Muslim kids, I got Muslim plans. Alhamdulillah, I'm a Muslim man. Alhamdulillah, I'm a Muslim man. Alhamdulillah, I'm a Muslim man. And my mum always tried her best to make sure her son was focused. My mum always had a smile no matter how slow I progress. Mum would always say, that's my son, he's the best. Mum never let me forget that this life was just a test. But I was raised in Christianity, I used to go church. Mum would drop me off to school, then she'd rush off to work. And mum saw her son change when I turned 19. She still loved me the same when I converted to this deen. She just started asking questions. Son, why you do that? I say, mum, sit with me, watch a DVD of Ahmed Deedat. And slowly but surely mum will recognize the truth and appreciate the changes that I made since my youth. But she knew I was flying away, she wanted to spend the day together. This is our moment, we went mosque together. And it was enough to make me smile. Look at my mum with her hair cover. And then she broke the news, she wanted to take her shahada. I said, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And I told my mother, when I die, don't cry. Pray for me at my funeral, why? I believe in a life that goes on beyond the sky. I'm trying to get there while I'm here still alive. And yeah, I'm surprised. I didn't think that I would be able to lead the things that I've done before. But now they see me in the street. They say, Belal, how's it going? I reply, Alhamdulillah, it's going fine. The grass is greener on the other side. These women are more cleaner and these men are more polite. I love my new family, I love my new life. See, now I can smile even if I die tonight. But if I die tonight, tell mommy don't cry. Pray for me at my funeral, why? I believe in a life that goes on beyond the sky. I'm trying to get there while I'm here still alive, and I'm living like a black Kunta Kente. House slave, field slave, young Daniel son, and Muhammad is my sensei. I was spending money in Versace and Fendi, and now I'm getting new Emiratis, tailor-made. I was drinking Mo and Shandon in the party. Now I'm third row in Acton, praying Qiyam Lane. You can hear my brother's passion by the means. When you're air free, Philistine, watch the room scream. I'm light on this journey, I don't even need a bag. All I need shahada and my sword like a Saudi flag. Beard on his chin, Muslim when he rolls up. Yemeni scarf and his tracksuit bottoms rolled up. They can look and laugh, but we know when this is all up. Who will laugh last and face dark and who's glowing up? I'm on this thing till I'm older. Inshallah, stay on deen like a soldier. You're looking at a young son of Adam, father of Sameya, mirror to my brother, black slave of Allah, leader for the younger, follower of Sahaba. It's Muslim Belal named after Ibn Rabah. Mother was a struggler, my daddy was a hustler. I was raised in the south in the center of the gutter. Now I can see more than the world they put in front of me. Praise to the Lord, fortunate, look what he's done for me. They used to call me Smalls, now it's Muslim. Now I'm left thinking about this life and what it could have been. All of this around me, trust me, I weren't expecting. I'm standing in the mosque, shoes off with my brethrens. Whew. And now I'm saying to my brother, do you want for me what you want for yourself? Brother, do you pray God gives me strength and health? Oh brother, do you gossip about me like I'm a star? Brother, do you love me for the sake of Allah? Brother, do you want for me what you want for yourself? Brother, do you pray God gives me strength and health? Brother, do you gossip about me like I'm a star? Do you love me for the sake of Allah? I just want to walk with my head down, books under my arms, reciting my favorite verse from the Quran. As time goes around so soon, time goes around so soon. Bismillah. والتين والزيتون والطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين. You see, we're seen from them disbeliever as a stranger, seen as the ones that bring terror and danger. But I just want to focus on this deen. Head down, trying to focus on this deen. Thank you. It's been a pleasure entertaining you. I just hope this benefits you the way it's meant to. I took you on a journey, gave the story of my life. And I may not get to tell this story again after tonight, because this could be good night, but it's been a good night. And if I pass this test, I say it's been a good life. I'm glad I put things right. I was on a bad path. Now I was just relaxing in the bath. I like a girl with a scarf and a white faux duffer and a sleeveless puffer and my trousers above the ankles. There's problems in this world, but I'm seeing the angles clear. I'm in my 13th year. So this is like a 13-year-old inspiring his peers. She'd either be here, we could trade places and you could take the chair. And you don't need to cheer or clap. And please don't compare me to rap, because I am just a speaker. I speak in the language of the youth. I understand them. I've been through what most of them been through. But now I'm on the stage with a different ambition. I'm like Malcolm, a man on the mission. I made the transition. I came from them streets to Islam, the ghetto. When I see my brother give a palm, embrace with a hug and greet with salam. Salamu alaikum. I'm a Muslim. I came from the streets to Islam, the ghetto. When I see my brother give a palm, embrace with a hug and greet with salam. Salamu alaikum. Thank you very much.
Last year we had 5 Canadian artists, right, called Vocal, Voices of Canadian Artists Across Latitudes. Although they were from Canada, they had Caribbean heritage. This year, looking at the state of our society in terms of at-risk youth, their vulnerability, in terms of crimes against women and children, I think we were at our worst this year, 2014, in our treatment of women and children. And we also had the thematic showcases, Word in the Yard at a Panyard, which was a Panyard line, bringing back that Panyard line. Guerrilla Poetry at Woodford Square, the historic Woodford Square, because Woodford Square means a lot to different groups of people and to all the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Want to be, I learned this from those men who fight, upward toiling through the night.
To speak about Cascadoo 2014, I will have to touch slightly on Cascadoo 2013. In 2013, we focused on the artists to improve the craft of the artist, to improve the artist, him or herself, because it's not just about spoken word. You know, the spoken word artist can go into photography, can go into management, event management, different areas, film, you know, playwright. So we're showing the possibilities of, hey, you're a spoken word artist, could be versatile and experiment in different fields. So we decided to call our label this year CLIP. C-L-I-P. Now when you hear clip, automatically you think of something negative, because every youth want to move with a clip, or you have a clip for the cartridge in the gun. This clip is spelled the same way but it is changing lives in people. And our slogan is shoot words, not bullets. Cascadoo is held annually in the week of the 12th because of International Youth Day, and we try to focus on the theme for that year. This year the theme was Youth and Mental Health Matters. Greg Frankson, he deals with mental health, and his style of spoken word we can relate to.
Since 2007, I've been acting as the International Initiative for Mental Health Leadership's Poet Laureate. And so in that role, I've been on 3 continents working with people young and old to find out more about their experience with mental health, and then to take that information and raise awareness and fight stigma against people who live with mental health illnesses.
Ms. Court was saying in 2012, when she had started a tour, a worldwide tour. So it was obvious she would come back, and she deals with issues of women and children. Now we come to Randy and Thobes, the Zulu Queen. The Cascadoo cast for 2014 was initially 4 persons. I got an email from a young man called Randy McCullin. He said, "Yo, Mtima, I'm seeing this festival in Trinidad. I want to be a part of it." I wrote back, "I don't have the budget to accommodate you." His reply was, "I don't care, I am coming." I said, "Well, boss, we'll see." Randy's here today. And while I was trying to negotiate with Randy, I got an email from Thobes, the Zulu Queen, out of South Africa. And I said, "South Africa?" Then she said she wants to be a part of it. Again, I told her I don't have the budget. She said, "Please try," she wants to be here for Cascadoo. And with the help of God, Thobes was here for Cascadoo 2014. And it's so interesting. Thobes deals directly with children. She has a preschool in South Africa. Randy, a young man, about 27 years old. And Randy is an activist for girls and women, young girls and women. And that impressed me. A Jamaican, a young Jamaican, standing up for the rights of women and children. I said, "Boy, we have to bring him to Trinidad." And that's the Cascadoo cast for 2014. 6 poets from around the world: London, the US of A, Canada, Jamaica, South Africa. For years I've been trying to get Lamont Carey to come to Trinidad. Now, Lamont Carey has a history, a past, as an at-risk youth who made it. So he is a living testimony to what I was trying to achieve this year in Cascadoo 2014.
When we went to the males juvenile facility, I was like really emotional because I was once them. I went to prison at the age of 16. And so to be walking in there and seeing little boys, I don't know how old the youngest one was, but they looked to be like 8 years old. And I'm like, how could they be put in this kind of environment with adult men? And so I felt sympathetic towards them because I know what they're up against. So when I talked to them, I wanted them to know that this isn't the end of the road. This doesn't define who you are, but if you allow how prison tells you that manhood is, then you'll be coming back to prison for the rest of your life, as well as the streets. Because in the streets we're taught to be men, meaning we gotta be able to sell drugs, make money, live all this fancy life, but that puts us in prison. And then when we go to prison, we are taught how to be a man in prison is that you don't let nobody disrespect you. Anybody get out of hand, you fight them or you put that knife in you. And so when you live by those codes of what a man is, they constantly lead you in trouble and eventually lose your life. And so I wanted to share with them, I've been there and I was able to overcome that, and now I'm a successful individual who hasn't committed a crime in God knows how long. And I'm successful in so many different things. If I can do it, they can do it, because I came there with nothing. I didn't have an education. I didn't have none of those things, but I started reading in prison. I started learning in prison. This has been one of the most amazing experiences that I have ever had. Usually when I'm somewhere in somebody's world, country, state, or what have you, I am the one who's supposed to have the impact on the people. But here in Trinidad, I had the opportunity to spend a week with some of the most amazing poets that I have ever met in my life. And so I have friends and family out of that. And I've been able to be in front of juveniles who were incarcerated, and we were able to connect. So tonight reconfirms that this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. Because I was a juvenile who went to prison at the age of 16. And I ended up spending a total of 11 years in my life incarcerated. And then if you would ask most people, that my future was supposed to be just me continually being incarcerated. But the thing that I found is if I just focus on being me, just focus on reaching for those dreams that I thought that I could possibly have if I tried. And ladies and gentlemen, once I put that one foot forward, it was determined that I wasn't going to go off into a direction that I did not want to go. Life opened for me. I spent most of my life trying to survive. But today, ladies and gentlemen, I live. I live every day, not like it's my last, but like I'm joyous for tomorrow. The streets is never going to stop calling me, because it's a part of who I was at one time in my life. And as an artist, you have gaps in between performances at sometimes, so you're not making money. And so when the streets keep calling me, I create a piece. I write a new poem, or I write a new book, or I create or do a new kind of workshop. The one thing that I learned is that I have the power over me. The streets is only my past, but I was able to turn that past from being something negative to something to how I live and fund my life. So I have no problem with the streets keep calling me. That's how I was able to create the piece. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always going to be connected to that lifestyle, but it doesn't have to be in a negative way. So I go to the streets to get the young people, to get the older people, to get the ex-offenders, to show them you don't have to die in the streets. All you have to do is be determined enough to want something bad enough to give it a try. And if you give it a try for a month, I guarantee you will see progress. So I love when the streets keep calling me.
Cascadoo has been amazing. It's been wonderful. A week-long list of activities, from going to YTC to going to St. Jude's, to go to the different panchayats and the different communities. It's been awesome, really.
A panchayat has its origin in Indian culture and some Eastern African cultures. So it's a dialogue with the community and the elders. You know, it's a form of local government in India.
This festival is a little bit different in that essentially what it is it's basically a mini tour. Like, we've toured around different parts of Trinidad. So I mean, we did shows here, you know, at Normandy, but we've also done shows in Rio Claro. We've done shows in Belmont. We went all the way, you know, we went all over the place in order to bring our words. We went to Enterprise, you know, we went down all the way down south with the steel pens and all the rest of it. Like, we have been working. And you know, at most other festivals, it's usually, you know, a few days. You're in one spot, you're there for a couple days. But here, we've been here for over a week, and really getting to know the people, the traditions, the culture, the food, the music, the dance, everything of TNT. And this has been not just an artistic experience, but a personal revelation for me to experience that culture up close and to really get an appreciation for it. If there was one thing that really stood out to me was the Trinidadian love of doubles. I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is about this little wrap-up thing with some chickpeas and some sauce in it that makes people absolutely lose their minds. But also, you know, I was also really struck by the pan band. When we went down and we saw the Deltones, they were unbelievable and so talented. And I've seen steel pan before in Canada, but to see it being done here by people of such high quality and caliber in the country of the origin of the only instrument created in the 20th century, that's something I'm going to tell my grandkids about.
I work Serval. A lot of what I do in my life has elements of what I do in Serval. I'm a past product of Serval. I attended Serval when I was 20 years old, when I myself was at risk, and I knew what that program did for me. Not everybody could come Serval. So if I get an opportunity to take that philosophy, that message of Serval into communities, I will do it. And that's how we came about with these panchats, into us going into the communities. Now last year, as I said, we focused on the artists and we invited people to come to Nallis. This year we decided, hey, we are going to the communities. But I didn't just go into Monipo and say, hey Monipo, all I need help. Dun, 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 here's Cascadoo. I went to the people of Monipo in the same way that Father Pantin went to Laventille, and we discussed, we had a dialogue, and Monipo organized their event. So they hosted Cascadoo.
Mon report, oh man, I had a good time. Because we was told by different people that it was a bad area, right? And so I was expecting a bad area. Man, I had a ball. Kids was filming performers. And then after all of it was over, the guys that they said was probably the bad guys, they called me up outside the gate onto the hill, and they were shaking my hands and taking pictures with me.
That was a platform for Lamont and the others to share their life story, to share their work, because how the experiences they had with their lives, it resulted in the work they are doing.
It's called Voices Under the Trees. We all have a voice. We're here for a purpose. If you don't speak, why you expect me to speak for you?
We are trying to show these young people there's another way. You have Lamont who lived a certain life. Look at Lamont today. Look at Muslim Belal today. Look at Randy. No, Randy had his difficulties. He didn't turn to crime, but he had difficulties. Look at Tiana Cohen Paul. She shared her story of abuse. Look at her today. August is globally recognized as what will be your legacy month. And Cascadoo will leave a legacy.
What is Cascadoo? It's a collaboration between Anthony Bansfield of Canada and myself. So we discussed the idea for a few years before, and then it was birthed in 2013. Cascadoo takes place in Trinidad, and I'm saying broadly in Trinidad. It is launched at Nallis in Port of Spain, and then we go out. So we have been moving around. I remember a poet last year said, Cascadoo is not just the ordinary festival. That broad aspect or that broad appreciation of Trinidad. Cascadoo is actually divided into two sections. We have panchayats or community discussions, and we have thematic showcases. This year was the first time we actually had the Peregrinade, the Midnight Rubber, storytelling. We'd usually have the Rapso and normal open mic. But we wanted to showcase what we refer to as our carnival characters, because that is our culture, that is our indigenous oral traditions. And we wanted to share that with our visiting poets. We also have something called Word in the Yard. Now the Panyard is the first community center, the first homework center. It's a place of learning, of sharing, of commerce. The Panyard is the heartbeat of our community. So we are trying in our simple way to bring back the Panyard line. So we want to bring back that Panyard line and expose our international poets to our national instruments. And I must say, that I think is the highlight of Cascadoo.
So I got an email or a Facebook message from MT Marcel Walsley. He just was like, hey, I'm from Trinidad. I do this festival every year. This would be our, I believe, third or fourth installment of it. And he said, here's some people who've come in the past. Would you like to come down and have this experience and work with the youth down here? And it was really a no-brainer. There was this like, oh, all right, going down to the Caribbean, that's cool. Working and doing work that I'm already doing, that's cool. Oh, all of these people from other places and meeting in, mixing from international people converging in a place that they've never been before in an international space. Oh yeah, this is gonna be fun. And so, I said, yeah, of course, immediately.
What made me agree to come to Trinidad? Firstly, team was very persistent, but it's mainly because a friend of mine came here last year and got involved in the Cascadoo Festival, and he really spoke well of it. And then also I'd never been to the Caribbean, and I thought, what better opportunity to come to the Caribbean than to combine it with an art form that I like and get insight into the performers and the art and the culture out there. I think it's always important, especially at this stage, for what I'm trying to do, to draw as many inspirations from different places to create the art which resonates with people on a mass scale. It's easy for me to draw inspiration from London, but what can I take back from Trinidad that will hopefully impact people in the Caribbean next time I speak or create something?
The only thing I've known about Trinidad is Trinidad James. And so what attracted me to come here, besides the fact that it was in the Caribbean, was just how expressive Mtima was about what he was trying to do, what the festival meant to him. And I was like, yeah, of course, to spread this spoken word, this movement, this moment. I'm just glad to be a part of it.
When Tima asked me in Toronto, he was at the North-South Griot Summit, which was an international summit we had around Pan Am Games. So it was poets from Caribbean, Latin America, Canada, America, and England. And I guess Ntima sort of linked with me there. I don't guess, I know Ntima linked with me there. I wanted to come in particular because I have family here. My mom's from here.
I heard about Cascadoo through Emmanuel Villafano. He's my secondary school friend, and he is closer to Mtima than I am. And he was like, Michael, Mtima want to come for Cascadoo, to come and perform. And we go into St. Jude's and the Credo Foundation and all these places. And for 2015, Mtima approached me directly after seeing me perform for the secondary school slam, and he offered me residency for Cascadoo.
I began my journey in spoken word as a 16-year-old, and I had always been writing poems, as I think most young people, they write in their notebook, they journal, they talk to themselves. And I was one of those kids, but it wasn't until I got on stage and performed for a freshman orientation. It was a poem about violence in Chicago. A young boy by the name of Darion Albert was hit with a wooden plank in the head, and it was caught on videotape and it was shown over national television. And the only thing that people thought as a solution was to bring in the National Guard, not to invest in that neighborhood, not to ask why this violence is happening. So I wrote a poem. And it was when I performed it at this school that two mothers came up to me and were crying. And that's when I knew this is what I wanted to do.
So in 2006, I found myself in the New Eureka Poets Cafe. It was a really interesting night. I was going through things that people go through, and I walked into this poetry venue, and it happened to be like the best. These 5 poets were the best of the best. I had never seen poetry back to back to back, just so dynamic. And I remember just being really inspired that night to go ahead and try this thing. Eventually, because I felt so moved and impacted by the craft, there was always a lot of talk about it being something that people wouldn't be able to get paid to do. It was this always this discussion of like, if you're a poet, like you just, the joke is like, the first half of poet is poor. And this idea that you can't make a living off of the craft. And I remember the day I decided it. I was in this venue, and like there were literally 2 people. One person who had just mentioned how broke they were gonna be if they were gonna be a poet, and this another gentleman by the name of Ovius Maximus, who I knew and everyone else knew that he was making his way as a career poet. And I remember feeling like I was at a crossroad, right? It was like I could either go this way, listen to what this person just said, or I can figure out what this man is doing and go that way. And so the decision that night was like, I'm gonna figure out how to make this work, because I feel like it's incalculably valuable. You can't put a price on the effect that the craft has on people, the emotional changes that are inspired by way of people who listen to poetry. And so there we are.
I got into spoken word by accident, really. I was listening to a lot of rap. I had just left home, and I was in Halifax, and I was in grad school at the time. And I was, the only black person I had. There was like one black professor, and he kind of racially awakened me in some ways, I guess. So I was seeing a lot of things I hadn't seen before, I guess. And I was listening to a lot of rap to hear black voices in my day, because I was like the only black person like in grad school. And I woke up one morning and I had a whole poem in my head, which sometimes you're sleeping and you hear poetry, and you're sleeping, you hear music, and you wake up and you're like, oh, like in your poet, the dream you're writing like an awesome poem, and then you wake up it's like gone. But this time I had the poem, and I just sort of wrote it all out, and I didn't know what it was, like, so it was kind of like a rap. And I was looking at it and I'm like, but I don't have a beat, I don't know how to rap. And then like sort of literally maybe the next day, I saw somebody in the street, Keisha Monique, and she was like, how come you never come out to the poetry show? And I was like, I didn't know there was a poetry show. And this was sort of Wednesday, and the show was Thursday. So all these things just kind of happened. Like I had this thing that maybe it was poetry. I saw somebody who told me about the poetry show, and then like the poetry show was the next day. So I went and I did the poem. It was called White Neighbors, so it was about like growing up in white neighborhoods, and people responded, like they were. So then I was like, okay, well, other people have stuff memorized, like maybe I should memorize something. And then literally that was like in March of 2007, and we were hosting the National Slam that year. So the people who Word is Bond, who's a collective that puts on the shows, which I'm now a member of, but I wasn't at the time, obviously. They couldn't slam, so it was like they were looking for people, and they were like, just slam for the team. So sort of like I started in March. In May we slammed. I was like team captain, like I won the slam, and we won the National Slam in October. So it was like very, very fast. But yeah, it's just like this gift from the poetry gods that never came in.
I've always been an opinionative person, and I guess when you have opinions and you're creative, I've always been opinionative and I've been creative. Now, the perfect medium to combine them, which I didn't know for a long time, is the kind of art form of poetry or spoken word, because it gives you an opportunity to express your creativity, but also a mouthpiece for people to listen to your opinions and your ideas. So I've always expressed my creativity in writing and through stories, etc. Then an opportunity came up when I was in my last year of university to perform on stage, and I kind of just took the opportunity as something to kind of show up, because I was very prideful, like bravado. So I took the opportunity, I performed, and it went down very well. And ever since then, it's always been like, this is how I exist. I have ideas and I have emotions that I like to share with the world, and I need to be creative at the same time. So spoken word just become that tool for me consistently from that point on.
When I was 13 years old, I attended an event. It was Palestine, Israel, the usual politics. And on one side of the street was Israel, one side of the street was Palestine. And And there were about 1,000 people on each side. And so I'd go home and watch the news, really excited. You know, I had my face painted. I was super excited about representing. And on the news, they had said one side had 5,000 people and the other side hadn't even made 300 people. And like as a young kid, I was like, no, that's wrong. I was there. I saw with my eyes. We had a big crowd, and why is the news lying about this? Like of all things to lie about, why is the news lying about the number of people that were there? Like, and it frustrated me so much that literally the first poem I wrote dropped out of my mouth as it was. And I didn't know about spoken word. I didn't know about, Def Jam. I didn't know about stages across the world that hosted exactly what it was that I'd written. And I memorized this poem and recited it every single day for 2 years. Whether I was showering or walking down the street, I would say this poem over and over and over in my mind, thinking to myself, maybe one day I will say it to someone. I will say it to those who might need to hear it. And then, Poetry Slam came into school, and one thing led to another, and I got on stage, and there you go. That's how I started. But I wrote initially to address the injustice that was happening. And I was a young child doing so.
Dressing like Bedouins protects us from the sun. Burning fire in the eyes of passerbys, you couldn't imagine the scorch they cast us. Like we are droughts, begging them for rain. The sun is assuming our story. This is the hijacked narrative of a Muslim woman. Dear sir, you do not need to remind me that I am powerful. Like a dam holding it up, you suppressing my flow, sir. Inevitably, I will break, I will crash, I will bury you in your words. I will set fire to the sun, sir. Use every racist raghead remark to remind you that stereotypes are never as good as my stories, sir. You do not need to remind me that I am powerful. Powerful is resilient, girl who gets along despite racist predator. Finger marks on my neck, I had bruised ribs, attacked on the streets of my own home, attacked on the streets of my own birthplace like an endangered species. Sir, I survived, sir, I survived. Where they say Scarved Girl isn't adequate enough, not capable enough to tell her own story. How often do you see one of us in the news? Sir, I keep constitutions on my wrists to remind myself that self-defining me is my right. Sir, these are lessons you don't need to remind a powerful woman. Sir, I am a powerful woman. Sir, I am born woman. Sir, I cry woman. Sir, I walk woman. I bleed woman. I am woman. Sir, I am woman. You do not need to remind me. Sir, you do not need you to speak for me, sir, on behalf of me, and especially over me. Sir, didn't your mother teach you manners? Ask me questions instead of answering them for me. Sir, stop answering for me. I didn't forget how to speak. I don't forget how to speak. I did not replace my tongue with a scarf, sir. In fact, I wear it loose enough not to close my mind, sir. I own a narrative. I speak my narrative, so listen to my narrative, sir. I didn't forget how to speak. You do not need to remind me how to speak. I speak 7 languages, sir. English, Arabic, daughter, sister, wife, mother, and woman, sir. I speak languages you will never comprehend. I bleed languages you will never comprehend. You do not need to remind me that I am powerful. You do not need to remind me I am woman. You do not need to remind me that I can speak, sir. I know what your mother knows. Your mother knows what I know. I practically raised you, sir. I practically raised you. So hold your lips before you interrupt a woman to tell her you know more about her power than she does. You cannot outsource my woman, sir. So let me tell you about power. I promise I'm a good storyteller. I speak in metaphors. I promise you can understand, sir. I'll make you some tea myself, sir. So have a seat, sir. And I will teach you what a powerful woman sounds like.
Yeah, I think spoken word is extremely useful and extremely inspirational. When I was a young person, just to see, it wasn't even just that I thought poetry was this powerful thing. It was that I thought it was cool. I thought it was dope. I saw people on stage expressing themselves, and I wanted to do that. And I think that inspires young people and gets them rejuvenated in education. And so now as an educator, when I walk into a classroom and I bring in a spoken word piece or something that comes out of the oral tradition, out of hip hop, they latch onto it. They may not read, Beowulf or Moby Dick, but they can hear a poem and go, yo, I learned something, or how can I use that to tell people what I have to say? And that is not only useful, but that's extremely, extremely revolutionary to the classroom.
I think the youth find this an important medium because it speaks to their reality, depending on which artist is, and I guess it speaks to them from a perspective which they can relate to. And I don't say it's like the ultimate outlet, I don't say it's better than music, or I don't say it's better than sports. I think there's so many avenues in which youth can be reached, not even just youth, people in general, and I think spoken word is just one of the ones that I've chosen, so I'm more aware of how that reaches people. But I think anything which has a genuine relationship, something that kids, young people can relate to, is always going to speak to them. And I think spoken word is essentially that, because it's like you essentially bearing your soul to them. It's having a conversation with them, and who doesn't relate to a conversation? Who doesn't relate to you speaking to them if you make it personal enough?
So working with the youth, teenagers, I find it really interesting because teenagers are at that place where they've just, hormonally emerged, right? And all of the effort to kind of push away from whatever the normal lifestyle was of their generation, they kind of break out of that. My perspective is that teenagers are like nature's disruptive technology. Like every group of teenagers pretty much feels like, okay, whatever y'all were doing, you adults, is whack. We're gonna make it better. And that's just a very explosive place to be and to work from. So I really enjoy working with teenagers because they already have the inspiration and the impetus to like burst through. It's just now like, well, how do we funnel that and funnel it constructively so that they are able to take that energy and move forward. So teaching with youth at different points, whether it's doing workshops with like Urban Word back in New York, or traveling around to different high schools and things like that. Yeah, just seeing that kind of energy budding is a really strong place of interest for me.
Well, I teach, but I'm also part of an organization. It was started by a man named Sylvester Benjamin. It's called In My Own Voice, I Move. And what it is using arts and people telling their own stories, really in order to rewrite the pathways of their lives, to not have the story that is given to you about, if you're abused, you're going to turn out to be an abuser, or if you grow up poor, you don't have a chance to be anything. So all these narratives that are given to people, and we really encourage people to use the arts, filmmaking, poetry, rapping, music, to tell their story and find their voice. And it's been very powerful in terms of, there's so many people in prison and stuff who are writing all the time. I always say prisoners are like the last letter writers in society. They're not on email, so they write. I know guys that are like serious gang leaders, like people, and they'll be like, well, I have a poem, I write short stories. I went to Grand Valley Institute with women, and people had entire novels they'd written, and they said, everyone thinks that just because we're in prison we're nothing, and they don't even know what we do with our time. That's what we do, is really just encourage that and then use that to relate to people. We have a music studio in our community center. We do tenancy. Our outreach coordinator, not youth outreach, just outreach, is a woman called Deb Paris. She's just fantastic, cooks lunch every Friday for the whole community. This crafting club. So she's really sort of taken it to the next level. So anything the community needs, we're basically needs-based programming. We don't say this is what you have to do. We don't tell the youth, you can't come in if you're wearing a hat, or you have to show up on time, or this program runs this time. It's really driven by what people want, and whatever they want, we basically try to support them in doing, and it's been successful because that's your voice. We allow people to find their way. We don't stop people from doing lyrics about killing people. If they want to come and do a lyric about shooting someone, that's fine, but we'll talk to you about it. And then the youth start policing themselves. So there was one kid that came in, and he had this whole lyric, bust through the door, leave your head on the floor, and all this stuff. And I was kind of like, but I didn't really say anything. And one of the youth saw that, and he took me aside and said, I don't do lyrics like that, and don't worry. And, actually was now sort of speaking to me about not to worry about him and comforting me in a sense, and then sort of himself recognizing what it meant to be positive, but not because anybody had said, you can't say this, or you can't cuss, or you can't do this. They start to recognize, I think, what they feel is productive and positive because they're seeing examples of it without being told.
Like we went to this workshop where they allow people from whatever age, from 8 to 80, to come and learn musical instruments. And they had a bunch of steel pans, and we all learned how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb, right? The reason why that was significant to me as a bookend was, one, the resilience of creating something new and breaking cultural boundaries was basically the first thing that I met when I got here at the island. It was like, boom, this is something that we can be proud of, that or this aspect of our pride comes from the idea that we create from what seemed to be something to be thrown away and discarded and tossed away. We made it beautiful, and in turn changed the way the world sees music, right? And then at the end, to be able to participate in that and play something myself with others, the concept of why we actually do this work. We take things that are discarded, we take things that are thrown away, tossed away, our sense of emotional states of being, whatever it is, our dreams, our goals, our hopes, sometimes we can just toss them to the side. But being able to take those things, grab them back, and pound the pavement, pound the effort, pound whatever that needs to be pressed into or impressed upon to make something beautiful. That to me represented not just the experience or encapsulating the experience of being here in Trinidad, but the experience of being creative at all. And so that really, really moved me in a way that gave me a perspective about the craft now that I hadn't had before so clearly.
There's so many memories that I've made here that are absolutely incredible. But I think my favorite moment is when we pulled up to the steel pan yard and I see these 5, 6, 7-year-old kids playing this ginormous instrument, bigger than them, like pros. It was so beautiful. They were so adorable. And I think for that to be so a part of the culture is just, again, it's beautiful, especially when I come from a city like Chicago, where sometimes 5-year-olds and 7-year-olds have to worry about coffins rather than making music.
The first night of Cascadoo, the Monday night, there was a workshop where all the international poets would come together and conduct a session with members of the public.
One specific moment during the workshop when a lady came to recite the poem that she'd written during the exercises. Malcolm London had kind of encouraged people to be intimate with their poetry and write things which were personal to them, and I think the lady really got in touch with herself. So when it came to the group sessions and she started performing her poetry, she actually started crying. She broke down and she was crying, and I mean, we had to encourage her to finish the poem. But at the end of the poem, I felt like she had a sense of relief and a sense of kind of like finality in the issue. But that moment specifically stood out for me because it showed the impact of spoken word if it's given to people in a context which they can apply it to their own lives. Sometimes when you perform, it's just you performing and them consuming, but performing and giving an opportunity to perform back, it yields results like that where people are emotionally emotionally engaged with you, you know.
Like one of the girls after I did my poem, she came up to me, she was too shy to talk, and she just slipped me a piece of paper and it said, I was really inspired by your poem, like, thank you, and then she like ran away kind of thing. Like she didn't even want to talk, but she gave me this little note. Another of the girls was in my sort of section of the workshop, and she wouldn't read what she wrote, but she handed me the notebook, and it was a whole poem about how her brother was shot and she was abused, and how she'd been molested and all these things. And it was the most beautiful poem, and she let me read it out loud. And then everybody was so moved by her that people were, especially some of the old people in the workshop, were really like, you have talent, and she'd never written before. And that was really, for me, the favorite part. Like, when you see, especially for me as a woman, with young girls, like, you obviously have that special, like, feeling for them in terms of, what they're going through, and it hurts you, I think, especially, as a black woman with young black girls, and seeing when they're in pain and they're in struggle. So when you can connect with them and give them something and make them feel loved or significant, that's powerful, because that, more than anything, when you see those girls, it's you too, like, that's who you are. So anytime that, they're getting something, and, like, that's the most beautiful thing. Coming to a country where spoken word and the oral tradition, through calypso, through, the extempo, all these different things that people have, even with stick dancing and you have the chants and stuff, it's still an indigenous part of the culture, and it's vibrant. And so when you hear people doing poems and stuff, they come out of a culture where there's still an understanding that poetry, in whatever form, has an obligation, a connection to society, and that's really powerful. So I don't know that anybody needs to bring anything to the culture, but I think it's really important to kind of honor your roots and honor your traditions and what your community needs from you, and Trinidad has that.
Historically, spoken word has always been the lowest, what I would consider the lowest hanging fruit creatively, right? Because everyone has a mouth and everyone learns a language. And we have told stories forever, traditions before we wrote things down, and there are still cultures who refuse to write things down. They told their stories. Beowulf, the Iliad. I mean, as big as those books are, you would try to imagine that someone had all of that in their memory. And so spoken word, I'm wondering if it's a matter of there being a space for spoken word as much as it is a revival of the oral tradition, in the sense that what would be lost if we stopped talking? What about Trinidad would be lost if we just decided, if everyone here just decided to stop talking, to stop passing on stories from one generation to the next? What would be lost if everything just got reduced to hashtags and acronyms on, over text messaging, right? And so there's this sort of, I would imagine that there would be this necessity. It's not even like a question of if there's a space, but the question of, like, where are the spaces? Like, please.